Rob Swymer, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this talk.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and I have your book right here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Really beautiful cover, incredible book. How to conquer adversity, build resilience, and move towards your life's purpose.
Right on.
So, when was this published?
It came out April 25th. It was I did it in memory of my late wife, who I met April 25th, 1981. So I released the book on that day as a tribute to her. And so it's been out for a couple of months now. We're really pleased with the way it's been received. And the whole idea behind the book is really to give back and to tell my story, but a lot of other stories around the world of people that have gone through all kinds of adversity, right? I mean, large and small, right? But it's just a way. I've always wanted to do it. And during the pandemic, when I was in London, it was a perfect time. Being in lockdown and not being able to go anywhere, I decided to just take that action and write the book. And I did that while I was there and published it when I came back to the States, like I said, a couple of months ago. And yeah, it's been a wild ride. I've never done anything like this, and so I'm learning the business of how to be of being an author. So it's incredible journey.
Yeah, it's a great book, and it's an important message, I think, because people like to read motivational books, business books, self-help books, and a lot of them start from the point of of not addressing or acknowledging that a person may have had significant adversity in their life. And some people might read a book, they might even read a Tony Robbins book or go to a thing with him and say, well, these people haven't been through what I've been through. They're starting way ahead of where I am. I've really been kind of beaten down on life, and I've even seen people in some discussion groups just saying, this life is wasted. I've been through such hard times. I'm just not going to get out of this. But your book approaches it from a different point of that you've been through unbelievable adversity. I mean, things that I can't even relate to some of the stuff. I can't even imagine getting past some of those things and coming out, and moving forward from there. So yeah, what would you say to someone who, is coming from that point saying, like, there's really no hope for me at this point?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I was there. So I'm one of the few individuals that could probably say to that person that I understand how you feel. And I wrote this book specifically from the lens of just a regular guy that went through his share of stuff, right? I mean, I'm not a celebrity. I haven't got massive amounts of resources, right? I went and found them. And the reality is that's the whole thing about this is when I was getting sober, now 29 years and counting. And at the beginning, it wasn't the celebrity spokesperson, right, Mark? It wasn't the even the doctor, right, that did help, but it wasn't the doctor that got me sober. It was the other alcoholic and addict across that table, right, that knew my experience, understood me. That's who got me sober. Obviously, along with my faith in a higher power, who I choose to call God. But I think that's the whole idea behind why I did this in the first place, and bringing in stories from people all around the world that have gone through adversity. It's important to let people know that, every adversity helps you stack that and build that resilience muscle. It's a muscle. And I talk about all the time when I speak at corporate events or I speak at mental health awareness events, which I'm doing a lot now. I talk about building that resilience muscle, going to the mental gym. We always lift weights and we worry about our health and our diet, where, that's a multi-billion-dollar business, but we need to really be mindful of our mental muscles. And this is one of them, right? And if you're going through something, I would say that it's okay to feel those emotions, right? The brain is telling you that you've got to pay attention. I actually have a 3-step process that I go through to actually go through that adversity. I thank that emotion. I kind of separate it and I say, look, thank you, brain, for giving me that emotion, that adversity, or whatever that challenge is. It's just an emotion, right? And I separate that and I embrace it, and I thank it, and I outwardly thank it. So I make a conscious effort. And then when I do those two steps, I then have the power to go and evaluate my options and evaluate, what do I do? How do I get past this? I kind of pull back and I move forward with new purpose and perspective. And that's sort of the whole outline of the book. And what I realized is in my life, even when younger, when I didn't even realize the tools I had, I was doing it by instinct. So as I reflected on all the things, even as in my childhood, once I started to really look at this and then talk to other people, and we all had that in common. And that's where the surrender came in. That's where it all started to really come together. And by the time I finished the book, I realized that was the key to it all. Not giving up, but giving in. And looking back, that's sort of what it all came from. So that's what I would say to that person. It's like, you first of all, you're not alone, right? You're not alone. This is something that we have to normalize, this conversation of mental health and addiction and depression. We have to normalize it. And we're doing that now. And I'm grateful for people like you that are doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually an incredible idea. The idea of when you have a negative emotion or negative feeling or negative self-talk in your head coming up, that you can embrace that as a challenge to overcome and turn it into something positive.
Yeah, exactly. And look, and I want to be really clear. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert, right? Like I said, I'm just a regular guy that's gone through some stuff, but I will tell you that I practice progress versus perfection. Just like in the program, I take that to heart. I don't get it right every time, but I just keep moving forward as best I can.
Yeah. Now, the one group of people I've been working with in the last year or two is people that are what they call it iatrogenic injury caused by the healthcare system. People that have been prescribed medications, psych medications, benzodiazepines like Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, or antidepressants, and then they don't realize that they're going to have some really severe withdrawal symptoms, and maybe even protracted withdrawal that can last for years. Akathisia, which is like a really terrorizing symptom, a symptom where a person is restless and just can't stop moving. They can't sleep. They feel like a vibrational energy of pain going through their whole body. And that apparently can last for years, a year, 2, 3 years sometimes. Sometimes people feel like it's never going to end. And it's hard to even relate to, what are they going through, but they do get through it if they stick with it. And, some of them get to the point of being suicidal, but if they can just stick with it, it does get better eventually. It can take a really long time, and there's almost nothing to do other than just wait it out and maybe not just sit there and wait it out, but it's time that does the healing. Any medications, there's not really medications that can solve the problem generally. So it's and that's the struggle of how do you help people in that situation? What can you do? Doctors are always used to prescribing their way out of every issue. Right. You give someone some kind of medication to solve the problem, and there's no medication. And if anything, they want maybe they want to be acknowledged. They want people to acknowledge that what they're going through is real. That it's not. They don't want people to gaslight them and tell them that we're making up the issue and whatever. The doctors and family don't believe them at first. How can someone in that situation apply your book and your message?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. I think, from my perspective, there's no medication or pill to change your mindset. That has to be done by the person, by the individual. And I talk about it in my book about it's a top-down solution, right? And this is not new, right? I learned this from outside. And I truly believe that just like I have a daily reprieval for my sobriety, I have a daily reprieval to get my mindset correct. And there's no pill in the world that's going to do that. You have to do that work. And I talk about some steps that I take and that I recommend. I talk about meditation. I talk about getting out of yourself. Talk about external, making sure that you just don't get inward, right? That inner voice. And that inner voice is louder than any other voice that you can imagine, and it can take over your entire existence. So to get yourself in the right state, you've got to get control of that inner voice. And that's the work that needs to be done. You have to be involved in your own rescue to do that, just like any program of addiction or sobriety, anything. There's no way you can do that without being involved, right? You can't be an observer as you get better. You've got to be a participant. So it's the same thing with that and it's an unfortunate thing to be in that position where doctors are just doing the Band-Aid, the pill. And I'm a firm believer of there are good medications. There are obviously things that people do need at certain points in their life or in their sobriety or in their recovery. I get that. But when they're overprescribed and they become really dependent or have major issues like that, then it's the mindset. It is the mindset. And it's a lot of work. This is not easy stuff, right? And I get that. And I didn't get it right always either. But right now I'm such a student of that game that I can pivot and I can make sure that my mindset is correct and my state is where it's at. But it took me a long time to get there. So I would just say you've got to stick with it, just like you said, right? You really need to stick with it, and you've got to seek that help, and you've got to be able to get your mindset in a way that it's positive. I do a really simple thing, Mark, is that I really try and live in a state of gratitude. I believe, and studies show, and this is not rockets, this is not me again being an expert. If you're grateful, you can't be fearful. You can't have fear and gratitude in the brain. It just doesn't exist, right? And if you're grateful, you can't have anxiety. You can't have anger, right? You can't have fear or anger if you're grateful. It's impossible. The brain can't process it. So why not live in gratitude and get rid of that other stuff, right? It's so simple, right? But you have to make the effort, right? That's a simple thing you do. And you can do that with meditation. You can do that with gratitude exercises, all kinds of things on YouTube, you name it. You can do it for 5 minutes. You can do it for 2 minutes if that's all you can handle, but it's still going to rewire your brain. We're still 1.0, right? We're cavemen, fight or flight. It's all fight or flight. So, right, this, and as a doctor, you know that the serotonin's going through your body, and you're just like, the cortisol, and right, you're just like, boom, 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 right? I got to survive, and you got to release that, right? And you got to get the dopamine, the serotonin, the reward, the belonging, the human needs of love, right? Those are the things that you need to work on, and the way you do that is by taking care of yourself and then getting into a state of gratitude. And it's really changed my life when I learned that about a decade ago. And I learned that after I lost Bonnie, right? My first wife of 32 years, suddenly, gone in a second. It just shattered me. And I said, how am I going to recover from this? And somebody taught me this method of, well, let's just look at it differently. Let's come from a state of gratitude. And it changed my entire life. And now I'm on a mission to say, look, this works. This stuff works. And it's so simple. You don't have to be this cerebral person that, all these things you have to do. When I talk about meditating, I always say, this is not the Dalai Lama on a rock for 8 hours, right? This could be 2 minutes. This could be a walk with your dog on the beach. It could be just sitting out in your backyard, just being with yourself without the phone, without social media, and just being present. That stuff really works. And it's a monumental change in the brain. And it's minor change can make massive impact. I've seen it. I've lived it. And that's why I want to pass this message on. It really does work.
Yeah, it's true. I think almost anyone can be grateful for something, or probably for a lot of things where they are, no matter how bad things are. Things could be a lot worse. Although I would think, you don't want to obsess too much on that. No. Things could go.
Right.
But yeah, gratitude. Now, some people, I know, like I had a really good friend that was involved in 12-step recovery for, I think, like 35 years. He talked a lot about gratitude, and that whenever he sponsored somebody, he always would start with having them do a gratitude list, of writing down a list of at least three. He said he would make his sponsees do at least a list of 3 things. Of course, he would prefer more, but he said, and he would give them a lot of time to do it. And after a certain amount of time, if they never wrote even one thing, he'd say, well, if you can't write 3 things in 3 weeks or whatever, maybe you need more time. That maybe you're not ready for this. But he would say, and he would help them along and say, well, are you grateful to be clean today? Are you grateful? Some people would put God on the top of the list, and he would say, God won't mind if you put your recovery on the top of the list. Yeah. He'll understand it.
That's right.
And then some, and so that's like from that perspective. But then there's some people that feel that they don't think they should write down a gratitude list, that it should be something kind of spontaneous in their mind. But how do you feel about that, about writing it versus doing it another way?
I think it's whatever works for you, right? So I write, but I also what I do in the morning is I do the three. It's funny because it's a 3-step process, and what I try and do, I don't overthink it. It could be as simple as, what, I'm really grateful for the wind on my back as I walk the beach today, or I'm grateful that I can have the time to do this, right? When people overthink that, and when I've coached people, and I coach a lot of people, and then I've had people come to me and say, I can't think of anything. I'm like, really? It's like, it's like, you look, don't overthink it. Just think of something really simple and you can build upon that, right? It's all about building, right? Stacking that gratitude. And it could be a huge event, the birth of your child, but it could also be, like I said, just a walk on the beach, or, anything, the wind on your back, the sun on your face. That's a good thing to start with, and anybody can think of those things, right? I mean, that's just, you don't overthink it. That's the key.
Yeah. So you could probably think of that almost like building a muscle, like a gratitude muscle, getting used to coming up with things. And the more you do it, I would imagine it would be easier to come up with even, newer creative ideas of things you can be grateful for.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it now for almost a decade, right? So to me, it's like, now I'm all over the place, right? And I'm thinking of different, it's like, it comes easy to me. And what I do is I do it just like I do the serenity prayer. I will do it throughout the day, because every day, throughout the day, you're going to get thrown curveballs, and you're going to be knocked off that state. You're going to be knocked off that mindset. So you have to check in with yourself, and you have to continue to get it straight. And you have that ability. The mind is very powerful, and we have to use that. We have to use that mind.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, man, I think there's people that if you told them, there's a limitless pill you could take, from that movie, like where you're magically brilliant and you can do anything. But if you tell someone like, well, make a gratitude list of 10 things, they're like, wow, that's, I don't know, that's not going to help. Well, you don't know until you try it. Look at you. You talk about in your book about people having a superhero mindset. Yeah. And, I it's funny that you put it that way, because I've always thought of that of addiction. People that have a, predisposition to be caught up in active addiction, to me, are like superheroes. They're usually are very intelligent, creative people who are predisposed to success otherwise. If addiction didn't get them, they probably would be founding companies and writing books and building things and creating things. And so I always see it as like, from the old Superman movie, when he had the kryptonite around his neck. And, if you took off his Superman suit and if you saw him in a dark alley, you'd say, oh, he's probably a junkie or something. But no, it's Superman. You just need to take the kryptonite off.
That's right.
But I like how you use it also, that superhero. Tell me how you see the superhero mindset. Yeah.
So, for me, what I got that idea by interviewing all these people around the world that have gone through numerous stages of adversity. It could have been divorce. It was depression, addiction, of course, physical abuse, mental abuse, right? From reading the book, it's like these people went through things that were sometimes horrific, but other things were, again, minor adversities in the scheme of things. But to really overcome adversity, at some point, you do have to tap into that superhero mindset, because as you pull back and you evaluate where you are and you look at your options and you pivot, when you move forward, you've got to move forward with conviction. You've got to move forward with purpose. And the only way you do that, really, in my opinion, is to tap into that superhero mindset. And if you look at all the superheroes, they've all gone through that, right? You look at all the Marvel characters, right? It's like they've all got their baggage, right? And then they've overcome it, right? By pivoting and moving forward, and they all have a new purpose. They all have a purpose, and some are bad, some are good, but they all have a purpose, and they've moved forward with that purpose. So that's how I kind of got the idea. I'm like, this is like a superhero mindset, and all these people have that superhero mindset. So that's how I came up with that. And I think that, that's another way of just identifying with yourself, like getting into that mode, right? Whatever it takes, you can call yourself a superhero or whatever it takes to get your brain rewired to go forward with new purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And people can be superheroes. They can accomplish things that they never believed they were able to accomplish.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, for example, they just had the 4th season of Stranger Things on Netflix, which is a great show. I think they're going to have the remainder next month. But a big part of it is the superhero of the show, 11. She's trying to get her powers back. And they're putting through all this stuff of trying to wake up her memories and everything. Maybe for like a regular person to get our superhero powers back, maybe we need to make a gratitude list, and do that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I believe in that heavily. And I also believe in the fact that you have to reach out, you have to get help. You have to seek out that help. As I said, you need to be involved in your own rescue, right? I mean, there's so many addicts across the room that I've witnessed that just expect it to just come to them, right? They sit there and they listen, but they don't participate. They don't get into the program. They don't do the steps. And look, I was one of them. I didn't do it for the first year, and I paid for it. I didn't drink. I was a white knuckle, right? A white knuckle sober person, and I paid for it because in that first year is when I realized, I had a new adversity, which was suicidal ideation, which I never had before in my life, and that was a wake up call for me, as well as just not being able to handle life at that point. So, and I'll tell you that's a big thing, and you have to be involved in your own rescue. And that was a turning point for me. And again, not even knowing what I know now is the surrender and the humility in however you do it, and to give in, right? I certainly didn't give up, or I'd be drinking right now, but I gave in, and I gave in to the process. I gave in to the fact that I'm willing now to be a learner for life, right? And a giver for life. And I'm willing to do that. And that's a whole different mindset. And when you get out of yourself and give to others, your whole mindset changed. Another way of doing it is another, gratitude's one, but then getting out of yourself is another. And it's a massive difference when you do that. And that can be simple as just calling up a friend and not talking about your stuff, asking them how they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Helping others is a great way to feel better.
Yeah.
And now you talk a lot about surrendering. Some people might not understand that, someone who's trying to be successful in life and maybe they want to start a business or go back to school, and you tell them to surrender. They're like, what do you mean, give up? But it doesn't mean exactly to give up, though, does it?
No, it does not. And I did a lot of research on that one word. I mean, I went heavy into that. And I even talked to military leaders, around the world, and they don't even think of it as giving up, right? So, the true meaning of surrender really is to pull back, right? Is to reevaluate, right? And then, like I said, pivot or try something new until it works, and then go forward. That's the whole idea behind it. So I just changed that word. I said, replace up with in. It's simple, one word, and then everything changes. Right. And if you talk to an entrepreneur or anybody in business, and of course I'm in business myself, ever, never, ever would I give up. Would I give in? Absolutely. And now that I've really learned what that means, I do it every day. Right. And, the book Surrender Experiment is the ultimate of that. Right. Just say yes to everything. Right. I mean, that's a great book. Right. It's a great book.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a new concept. Right, Mark? I mean, this is great. But even that book, it's a little different. What I'm saying is, you're going to have adversity hit you, and not to say yes to everything, but to pull back and reevaluate and give in to what's happening to you, accept what's happening to you. I was able to do that even with the death of my late wife, and to accept that and to give in to what's next to me, for me. And I have faith. I live in faith and not fear. And because of that faith, I do have the ability now. Again, it was a journey, but I do have the ability now to be able to give in to that adversity, whatever it might be. And there's more coming, I'm sure, in my life. There always is, right? And I just keep stacking that, call it adversity stacking. And I just keep stacking that adversity to get ready for the next one and building that muscle up like I'm going to the gym.
Yeah. So when adversity comes your way, you see it as like another workout, something new to get stronger.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's how I view it. I do embrace, I bring it on. Here we go. What am I going to learn from this one? And how am I going to take what I've learned in my 61 years, right, to overcome it even quicker. Right. As you start to do this and live your life like this, you start to really get through that adversity a lot quicker, and you learn quicker. And then you can apply those lessons and move forward. And then you come out with even a higher purpose, even stronger as a superhero, right? Even stronger, right?
Yeah.
To go back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you mentioned asking for help. I remember Steve Jobs had said that, and probably more than once he said it, that the most important thing is to ask for help. And he always tells the story how he called up Mr. Hewlett or Packard, whoever it was, and asked for a part, and then he got a summer job or something like that. Yep. And but asking for help is, a lot of people don't want to ask for help. You don't want to ask for directions, how to get somewhere. You don't want to ask for help and changing your tire, getting gas for the car, whatever. There's a lot of little things that people just like, I'll just handle it on my own. But asking for help was actually a secret to being successful.
It is. And if you look at, I go back to any kind of athlete that you're looking up to or you emulate, right? And the best of the best, they have 10 different coaches around them all the time for nutrition, for this, for that, the swing, for the, whatever it is, right? Why can't we do that? Why can't we ask our network and our coaches and our friends and our family and anybody that's life coaches that we can talk to get that help? It's all there. We just have to make the effort and take the action to get that. That's all about self-care, right? And as an addict or any kind of addiction problem, self-care, is just huge. It's huge. I mean, it's what's gonna get you through that.
Yeah. So now you had mentioned that you're going to a Tony Robbins event, and I'd watched that documentary on him on Netflix. I think I watched like half of it. I didn't get through all of it, but he's very intriguing. Just like his events are like, it's like going to a rock concert, with the sound and the music. And I've never been to one, but I thought it was intriguing when he jumped in the little pool next to his house, the freezing cold pool. And so do you know him personally? Like, are you like friends or something, or do you go to a lot of it?
Yeah, I've met him a couple of times, and I've been to many of his events, and I am always in awe when I'm in the room with him. I've learned a lot from him as a coach and a mentor. I mean, he's the best of the best, right? And the kinds of things that he puts on the table are absolutely life-changing. So I've been very fortunate to be able to be in the room with him several times and really, break through a lot of the things that I was needed to work on. So I recommend, he's got tapes and YouTubes, and I mean, you can listen to him anywhere, right? He's everywhere. So, I mean, I think that he's a voice, that somebody should have in their head. I certainly had him in my head when I wrote the book. I think I mentioned him a couple of times in there. I obviously gave him an acknowledgement. Yeah, at the end. Yeah. I mean, I think, Tony Robbins and the Robbins Institute they're doing some great work, and anybody and everybody can benefit from that for sure.
Yeah. It's great, tuning into a lot of this stuff. And, that's one thing I like to do. I like to subscribe on YouTube to people with like those positive message channels. Yeah. There's that one guy, I think it's Evan Carmichael. I just remembered his name. He interviews a lot of people and features people, and he always has positive messages, and people like that. And it's not, so you always have in your playlist or you always have new great stuff coming up all the time, and having an Audible account so you can listen to some of these positive books, is great. And but I think it's a good idea for people to try to surround themselves by positive things. I mean, even better to surround yourself by positive people. But but books are kind of like having people around you. That's like a great thing of like, maybe you can't get Tony Robbins as your personal mentor because he's like $1 million an hour, but but you can have him right there with you in a book or a book or an audiobook.
Absolutely.
Same thing.
It is. You can hear his voice, and he has events all around the world, right? You can always go to them, but I think any kind of mentor or motivational coach, I mean, those words in your brain are never a bad thing, right? And when you're in the car, instead of listening to music, listen to a podcast on, Brene Brown or Simon Sinek or whoever it is that lights you up, right? I mean, I have my list and who lights me up, and but everybody's different, right? And you need to surround yourself with that. You also, like you made a great point. I love what you said. You surround yourself with positive people. Look, you're a reflection of the 5 people that you hang around with, right? That's who you're going to be, right? And you need to look at that circle of influence. They're a circle of influence for you. They're influencing you whether you like it or not. And you have to look at those people hard and really ask yourself if that's where you want to be. That's who you want to be, and that's how you want to live. And if not, you need to change that circle of influence. It's really a hard thing to do, but you need to do it because you've got to surround yourself with positive, positive in people that will influence you in the right way, in my opinion. And I try and do that.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned that you do a lot of public speaking.
Yeah.
Do you also do like video for YouTube or anything similar to that?
So I do. I have an Instagram account like everybody else, and I do a certain reels. I'm doing like a midweek men's health awareness minute. I'm doing that this month for men's health awareness for this month. Last month I did mental health awareness. Obviously, I'm a huge advocate for mental health, and I do a lot of speaking on that, a lot of panel work or podcasts. That's sort of my mission now, is to, especially for guys, to make this normalize this conversation. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be humble. It's okay to show that weakness, because after weakness becomes strength. It's not. It's courageous, in my opinion, to show that vulnerability. It's courageous to show that weakness and overcome that, and be a model for those around you, family, friends, children, whoever it is. I take that very seriously.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to the superhero analogy, it reminds me of the Avengers movies with Thanos, and everything seemed hopeless in the first movie. And my son had asked me about that when Iron Man asked Doctor Strange, "Is there any possible way we can win this?" And he says, "Out of a billion possible outcomes, there's only one way to win." And and then the end of the movie they lose, and then the next movie they win. So my son said, "Well, what did he mean by that? By there's only one way we can win?" I said, "Well, the only way to win was to lose, and then come back again in the next movie and win." So they gave in, they surrendered, and surrender was the path to winning.
Yeah, because you learn from that, right? As long as you learn from that, I always say fail. There was a past CEO of mine. I love this. This comment was fail fast, right? People have said this, but he used to say it all the time, fail fast. And it's so cool to say that, because that's what you want to do. And by giving in, sometimes you can fail fast. And if you fail fast, you'll learn fast. And if you learn fast, you'll move forward even faster, right? This is all a process, right? And if you don't give into any of that process, it's not going to work. It plays out every day. We see it every day,
Yeah. So the important thing is to always learn from your failure. Of course, nothing wrong with failing, nothing wrong with losing, but learn and move ahead, knowing what you learned from that one experience.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I always tell people I am a lifelong learner. I live a growth mindset, and that has saved my butt a lot, because I'm willing to always learn. Here I am at 61, and I'm learning a whole new business, and being an author, I'm learning a new job. I'm always doing things to level up my playing field, and I don't expect to stop until until the end. That's just the way I am.
Yeah. So are you doing a book tour?
I've done several. I'll be in Boston here soon, but we're just doing up and down the East Coast right now. I've done a few, doing mostly virtual podcasts now and getting the word out. But like I said, we're really pleased with how it's been received in the message. I never wrote this, to sell 1 million copies or make $1 million. I wrote this to give more, to give back. And hopefully if I reached, one person between the lines of what I wrote, that would be my mission. And that's why I did it. And I'm giving all the profits to mental health. So I'm not making a dime on the book. So I've dedicated my life to that. And as of now, everything's going to mental health.
Yeah, it's a great message. And I think people that are going through difficult times are looking for a message that can help them. And I definitely recommend that people should get your book and read it. And is it available on Kindle? If somebody wants to read it on their phone?
It is. It's available on, you name it. It's available on Kindle. It's Amazon, Barnes and Noble, but it's every retailer I think has it right now. Yeah, you can buy it online. If you search it, you can go to my website, robswymer.com. And there's a link there, but if you just search my name, it'll come right up, and you can get this book in any format. except I haven't done the audio yet.
Yeah, which I'd love it if you did an audiobook, because you have a great voice. You know, if you did the reading, that would be incredible.
Yeah, well, I think that may be the next step. I don't know. We're still focused on just getting this message out right now and seeing what happens, you know. But yeah, so you can get it anywhere, any retailer that you'd buy your books at.
Yeah. So Rob Swymer, Surrender to Your Adversity: How to Conquer Adversity, Build Resilience, and Move Towards Your Life's Purpose. Really great motivational book, and really a lot of depth to it. And I believe this book can really help people that are going through difficult times and have had a lot of adversity in their life. So thank you, Rob Swymer. Thank you for joining me.
Mark, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was wonderful talking to you, and you have a grateful day.